My family thought I had no one, then tried to invade my home at midnight. The clock struck 12 with a low, ominous chime, engulfing the stillness of the night. Shadows danced across the walls, flickering like ghosts in the moonlight. Sarah sat on her couch, heart racing, staring at the flickering TV screen, an eerie glow in the darkness. What had once felt like a comforting solitude now pulsed with an electric tension. She could hear the rustling outside, a nearly imperceptible whisper carried by the wind, or was it footsteps? Suddenly, a loud bang erupted from the back door. The sound echoed through her small apartment like a clap of thunder in a silent storm. Her pulse quickened, and a chill ran down her spine. No one was supposed to be here. Not now. Not ever. Her family had written her off as the odd one, the outcast without friends or allies. So why toss aside their judgments now, only to show up at her door under the cover of darkness? This was more than a family reunion. It felt like a raid, a siege, and dread settled in her chest as she imagined the intentions behind their sudden intrusion. As Sarah rose slowly, her breath hitched in her throat. If they could invade her space, what else were they willing to do? She peeked through the curtains. They were there, her sister, her brother, faces she thought she could forget, illuminated by the pale moonlight. Their expressions? Gritted teeth and narrowed eyes filled with a strange mix of urgency and anger. They were here for something, but what? Did they think they could just walk in like nothing had happened? It was then she noticed it, the peculiar way her brother's hand twitched as he reached for the doorknob, urgency seeping into his movements. It mirrored the anxiety coiling deep within her. She knew they were up to something. The tiny crack under the door begged for a wider view. But she couldn't help but pull away, anxiety jolting through her. Were they here to take something from her? Or to extract a confession? The questions spiraled, tightening around her mind like the tightening grip of a vice. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Time slowed as the doorknob jiggled erratically. Each twist and shift sent tremors through Sarah's very being. The door creaked open, revealing only the remnants of darkness spilling into her sanctuary. She was at a crossroads, fight or flee. In that moment, a cacophony of frantic breaths and muffled screams emanated from the shadows. Was that her mother? The fear in her voice twisted like a knife in Sarah's gut. Could she protect herself from them, from the demons of her past? Or was the darkness they brought with them too potent to fight off? With the echoes of screams clawing at her mind, Sarah took a step back. She needed a plan, an exit strategy. But as she looked toward the door, refusing to let them in, a relentless uncertainty loomed over her, sharpening every instinct. What would she do if they never left? Panic surged through Sarah like a tidal wave, drowning out her rational thoughts. As she trembled in the dim light of her apartment, she caught glimpses of her family's silhouettes. They moved like predators, cautious and hungry, unaware of how close they were to crossing a line that shouldn't exist. Again, the jiggling of the doorknob shattered her composure, each jolt rattling her bones. Sarah, open the door! Her brother's voice cut through the night, raw and desperate. It clawed at her heart, but beneath the urgency lay something darker, an edge of impatience, perhaps even anger. No, no way, she breathed, backing away from the door, her thoughts racing. What could they want from her? She wasn't the child they remembered. A rush of memories hit her. Family gatherings filled with barbs masquerading as laughter, shadows lurking just outside of sight. They had never wanted her, yet here they were, pushing against her walls, desperate to breach them. She fumbled for her phone, but it slipped through her fingers, clattering to the floor with a hollow thud. Panic rose in her throat. She needed to call someone, a friend, anyone, but her instincts screamed at her to stay silent. What if they heard her? What if they found out how utterly alone she truly was? Sarah, please, we need to talk. The words dripped with feigned sincerity, a bitter reminder of all those times they dismissed her. There was a distorted kindness laced in their voices that made her skin crawl. Talk? She thought bitterly. You never wanted to talk before. Why now? Behind those locked doors, she could rally her strength. A deep breath steadied her, if only for a moment. As she looked around her small apartment, the walls felt like they were closing in. Memories clung to them, pictures of happier times, smiles that felt alien now. But the banging grew more persistent. We won't leave until you let us in. They sounded frantic, desperate. A sudden crash echoed through the air, rattling her senses, sending her heart racing. They were trying to breach her last fortress. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, clarity struck. What if they weren't just here to confront her? What if it was something far worse? Despite everything, a flicker of doubt ignited in her mind. Maybe they were in trouble. Before she could think it through, she dashed to her small kitchen and grabbed a knife, the cold metal grounding her. She took a steadying breath, contemplating her options. If she opened that door, could she protect herself? Could she let them in without losing control? Open up, Sarah. We're not playing games. A crash sounded again, and her resolve shifted. Okay, just hold on, she shouted, her voice shaking. Tension surged around her, the air thick with fear and regret. She approached the door slowly, her heart beating a frantic rhythm, intent on at least peeking through the crack. In that split-second pause, the world fell silent. Worry etched itself deeply into her brow as she caught sight of them again. But something was amiss. Her brother stood a step back, shoulders tense, eyes darting, not entirely looking at her. What are you hiding? Is someone else with you? The question hung in the air ominously. Her breath caught in her throat. The night wrapped itself around her like a shroud, and as seconds turned into eternal moments, she realized she was walking into a trap. Could her family truly want something from her, or had they come to extract something even darker? As Sarah stood there, knife in hand, uncertainty sprawled across the room like shadows creeping on midnight streets. Just then, another loud crash echoed through the door. The wood splintered, and she knew the moment was slipping away. What were they really after? With every ounce of courage she could muster, Sarah's hand tightened around the knife's grip. The moment had come. The door splintered again, wood fibers cracking under the pressure. Sarah could feel her heart hammering in her chest, primal instincts kicking in. She stepped back, knife glinting in the dim light, her breath hitching. What had they become? Let us in, Sarah. A voice, shrill and frantic, shattered the stillness. It was her mother now, an unfamiliar edge corrupting her familiar tone. Please, we need you to open that door. The words sent a chill down Sarah's spine. She knew her mother's tone all too well, demanding, controlling. It had always masked deeper emotions, and this time, it felt twisted. What did they want? Was it help or something more sinister? Sarah. An impatient grunt came from her brother as he slammed his fist against the door once more, the wooden frame shuddering under the impact. This isn't a joke. You're making it worse. Just let us talk. Talk. The word tasted bitter on her tongue. The last time they had a conversation, it ended in pain. Was this truly just a family reunion gone wrong? Or had desperation turned them into something far more frightening? She glanced around her apartment walls, bearing witness to countless arguments, the air thick with unspoken resentments. Those she used to call her family now felt like ghosts, shadows from a life where she was never enough. What if this visit was a mere facade hiding a monster? Another crash, and she flinched, but her grip on the knife stayed steady. She couldn't let them in. It was a line she'd never cross again. Just a few more knocks, and I would be brave enough to blow the whole door down. Her brother's laughter, dark and haunting, seeped through the cracks of the door. It was wrong. There was something off about how he spoke now, almost threatening. A mental image flashed in Sarah's mind: a family dinner. Laughter. Faint echoes of joy ripping apart at the seams over time. She daydreamed of their warmth, a warmth that had gone cold. Would they ever see her as one of them again? Or had they turned to the dark side, vengeful and desperate to drag her back to where they thought she belonged? "Sarah, please," her mother begged again, the sincerity in her voice cracking through the looming shadows. "We're not here to hurt you. You're our daughter." The knife felt heavier in her hand, the weight of its purpose pressing down on her. The woman behind the door was the same one who had raised her. But was she still the same? A battle raged within. What was family, if not a bond forged through shared struggles? Yet, the memories seemed to taint every ounce of trust she once had, leaving only an aching void. Then it happened, the unmistakable sound of metal grinding against wood as they began forcefully prying it open. The door wouldn't hold much longer. Panic washed over her, mingling with adrenaline. She dashed to grab her phone again, fumbling to get a signal, longing for some voice on the other end to save her from the tide threatening to sweep her away. "Get ready, Sarah. We're coming in." Another crash intensified, and this time, she felt it, a shift in the air, heavy with foreboding, with her heart pounding and breath quickening. Sarah turned toward the door, feeling a mixture of terror and resolve. She couldn't stay hidden forever. Whatever lay behind that door, she would face it. But would it be the family she longed for or the threat she feared? As the splintered wood finally gave way, she took a deep breath, knife raised and panic electrifying her body. Who would step through that threshold, the family she once knew or something altogether horrifying? In that moment, she realized the truth would soon unveil itself, and she had to be ready for whatever came next. Because once that door opened, everything would change. Would she emerge reunited or a battleground for vengeance? The door burst open, flinging shards of wood to the ground like confetti at a funeral. The dim light of the apartment flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced against the walls. Sarah's heart raced as her family loomed in the doorway, their faces twisted into masks of desperation and fury. "Sarah," her mother cried, her voice sharp and raw, completely devoid of warmth. "Why won't you let us in?" Their eyes, once filled with love, now reflected something wild, a hunger for control, a need to reclaim what they had lost. This was a far cry from the cozy Sunday dinners she remembered. She shivered as she thought of their past, a flicker of remorse perhaps threatening to break through her defenses. But the image of her brother, mouth stretched into a sinister grin, shattered that instinct. "Just step aside," he growled, pushing further into the broken entrance. "You don't want to do this. Let us help you." "Help?" The word left a bitter taste in her mouth. She shook her head, gripping the knife tighter, its cold steel grounding her. "I can't trust you," she said, her voice steady despite the storm in her chest. "Not anymore." Her mother took a step closer, her hands raised in a placating gesture that felt all wrong. "You don't understand. We've changed. Please, you have to believe us." "Changed?" Sarah spat, the word sharp like the blade in her hand. "You're the same people. I see it in your eyes." A low growl erupted from behind her brother, a noise that sent a chill down her spine. It was primal, almost animalistic, and it made her wonder what other changes had taken root in them. Fear flooded her senses. She wanted to run, to hide, but she was rooted to the spot, a lioness defending her territory. "Why are you doing this?" she demanded, eyes darting between them. "Is it guilt? Regret? Regret?" Her brother yelled, stepping closer, his stance threatening. "You think we regret anything? We want our family back. You owe us." Something inside snapped. This wasn't the family she remembered. This was an invasion of her sanctuary, a disruption of her fragile peace. "You don't even know what you're asking for." Before she could brace herself, her brother lunged forward, a blur of movement that felt both familiar and frightening. Sarah's instincts kicked in, and she slashed the knife in a panic, just grazing his arm. He recoiled, eyes wide with shock, blood pooling on the floor like secrets long buried. "Sarah," her mother shouted, horror mingling with a twisted sense of pride. "What have you done?" The pain in her brother's eyes ignited something savage in her mother. "Get her," she screeched, the walls vibrating with the ferocity of her voice. Sarah backed away, adrenaline surging. The living room felt like it was closing in. She could hear her breath, ragged and loud, as she surveyed her surroundings for a way out. This was no longer a battle of words. It had devolved into a fight for survival. "Run, Sarah," a whisper in her heart urged. But where would she go? The world beyond these walls felt sinister, and living shadows lurked in the corners. As her family advanced, distorted faces twisted in rage, the weight of decisions pressed down. Was there any solace outside? She glanced at the window. The streetlights flickered dimly, the urban night alive with an eerie calm almost mocking her turmoil. If she jumped, she could escape, but would she really be free? A final push of her mother's voice shattered her thoughts. "We're family, Sarah." The mantra pulled at her insides. Family, but at what cost? With newfound determination, she tightened her grip on the knife, her blood racing. "Maybe I don't want that family anymore." The room echoed her defiance, but the truth clung to her like a shroud. She was about to find out what that meant. What would she sacrifice to protect herself? Would she face the wrath of those she once loved, or could she find a way to emerge unscathed? The air crackled with tension as Sarah pressed her back against the wall, the cool bite of the knife reassuring in her grip. Her breath hitched as she scanned her family. Her brother's wound oozed, and though he looked dangerous, she could see the flicker of fear underneath. "Back away," she shouted, her voice quaking. "All of you." Her parents hesitated, taken aback. This wasn't the daughter they once knew, the obedient girl who laughed at their jokes and conformed to their rules. The flicker of something unrecognizable darted in her eyes, and she felt a rush of primal strength. "Do you really want to do this?" her father asked, anguish threading through his voice. "All we want is to help, Sarah." "Help?" She let the word hang like a noose. The more they pleaded, the more she was reminded that their version of help felt more like suffocation. "You think barging in here like this is going to change anything? You're not my family anymore." Her mother's expression transformed victory mingled with madness. "You'll regret this. You have no idea what you're doing, what you're dealing with." Hurtling toward her, her brother stepped over the threshold, blood trailing behind him like a morbid ribbon. The urge to run flooded through her, but she forced her feet to stay steady. She refused to let rain clouds of doubt shroud her mind now. As he lunged again, Sarah swung the knife in a calculated arc, aimed particularly at the wildness in his eyes, a desperate plea for him to pull back. "Stop," she shouted, but the words punctured the air like sharp bullets. It was too late. The bloodshed had begun. He dodged, his eyes lighting up with fury. "You think you can just turn your back on us?" "Enough," she screamed, her voice reaching a frantic pitch. The room echoed with the gravity of her declaration. She wouldn't stand down. She fought too hard to reclaim her autonomy to let them bulldoze her spirit now. Suddenly, from the corner of her eye, she caught a flicker of movement. Her parents exchanged glances dark and unreadable. "You can't hide, Sarah," her mother warned, stepping forward as if the tension itself would shield her. "We know where you are." The walls seemed to pulse with an ominous energy. The living room, once a sanctuary, morphed into a battlefield, each heartbeat making the walls lean in closer. She needed an exit, if only as a promise of survival, if only for a brief moment's escape. She could hear every breath, the rustle of fabric, the malevolent whispers of shadows. The thoughts spiraled chaotically. Visions of their former family life flashed in front of her Sunday brunches. Laughter, hug-filled goodbyes, but it all felt tainted now. "Mom, please, just go." The plea was half-hearted, but desperation made her words sharper. If she let another word slip about familiar warmth, the last shred of her resolve would close tight around her, suffocating her will. "No," her father shouted, their old anger unraveling. "Don't you dare turn your back on us again." The silence that enveloped the room felt thick, heavy. She turned to the window once more, the streets below dark and uninviting. What awaited her out there? Did it even matter? "Sarah," her brother yelled, his tone an ugly blend of anger and hurt. "You're alone. You've pushed us away, but we'll always be here." That moment of vulnerability puzzled her. Was it true? Had she truly burned all bridges? Before doubt could take root, she took a step forward, knife steady. "If you're here for vengeance," she said, voice trembling with conviction, "then you've got the wrong sister." A growl erupted from her brother's throat before her mother shrieked like sirens. "You think you can keep us out? We will never leave you." As their shadows loomed closer, the darkened corners of the room started to feel alive, wrathful spirits that fed off the family's spiral into chaos. "Then you'll have to kill me first," she cried, every ounce of fear transforming into a fierce resolve. But deep inside, doubt whispered, was she truly ready to risk everything for a life without those who created her? The question hung heavily in the air, her heart pounding like a war drum. She took a shaky breath, knife poised, about to make a decision that could shatter everything. What if this was just the beginning? What if stepping over that line meant she'd have to walk a path of no return? The sound of her mother's shriek echoed in Sarah's ears like the wail of a vengeful spirit. Adrenaline surged, sharpening her senses. The knife felt heavy, a lifeline and a blade all at once. "You won, take me back," she repeated, grounding herself in the promise of freedom. Time warped as she faced them, those who had once cradled her, now her adversaries. The dim light flickered ominously, casting their shadows into grotesque shapes. Her brother's wound was not just a physical mark. It was a symbol of their twisted affection, a love turned razor-sharp. "Get away from me," she shouted again, inching backward, but the wall was unforgiving. As her pulse quickened, doubt clawed at her resolve. Their faces resolved into a mask of family, yet behind their eyes lurked desperation disguised as love. Her father thrust his arm out, as if to shield her from something unseen. "Sarah, it doesn't have to be this way. We're not here to hurt you. Liar." The words sliced through the air, her voice trembling with fury. "You don't know what you're asking me to do." As she hesitated, a flicker of movement drew her gaze to her brother. His wound glistened, a grotesque reminder of the stakes. In a moment fueled by pain and rage, he lunged again, and Sarah's instincts kicked in. She slashed the knife toward him, a desperate aim to keep him at bay. "Why are you fighting us?" he roared, blood mixing with fury in the air. "You're the one who thinks you can escape." "Escape?" Her voice broke, a jagged edge slicing through desperation. "All I want is to escape this madness." The reality coiled around her tightly, suffocating. Her heart hammered as her mother began to circle her, a predator poised to strike. "Madness? Didn't we teach you to be strong? To stand firm?" Suddenly, the ground beneath Sarah felt unsteady. This wasn't just a battle of wills, it was a war of emotions. And she was ensnared in a web she'd involuntarily spun. "Strong? You call this strength? You call this love?" Her voice trembled, tears trailing down her cheeks, and the anger melted momentarily to despair. "Love has its price," her mother hissed, her eyes glinting like cold steel. "I've paid it. No more." Sarah screamed. The words were a declaration, a firm goodbye to everything that held her, no matter how tangled in loyalty or affection. She knew that between them lay a chasm of old pain layered with betrayal. With each step her parents took closer, shadows deepened, the room narrowing as if it were a salt box closing in on itself. "Do you understand what you're bargaining with?" her father implored, his voice raw. "You're willing to lose everything?" In that moment, she caught her breath. Yes, everything. Everything was already lost. The room erupted in commotion as her brother charged, fueled not by rage, but by desperation, arms outstretched to grasp what he felt slipping away. Instincts kicked in, and this time, Sarah didn't freeze. She drove forward, knife gleaming. This was it, the point of no return. Metal met flesh. A scream ripped from her brother's throat, and it shattered the silence in a way that left Sarah breathless. Time hung suspended in the air, oppressive and laden with consequences. Panic surged through her, mingling with disbelief. What had she done? The knife slipped from her grip and clattered to the floor, a mortuary offering. The shadows lengthened, thrumming with her brother's agony, and the heavy weight of her choice cradled in her chest. Her family, transformed before her eyes, recoiled in shock. Sarah, her mother gasped, horror cresting like waves crashing against a shore. What have you done? But Sarah stood there, frozen yet on fire, a wave of realization washing over her. She had crossed a line, yes, but it was a line that had to be crossed. And just then, a low rumble thundered from outside. It was more than a storm, it was a warning. What other forces had been unleashed? As the realization dawned, dread sprouted within her, threatening to consume her whole. Would they be the ones she had to fight off now? The walls trembled, and Sarah sensed the shift. The air thickened, presaging an inevitable storm. She glanced at her family, whose expressions had shifted from anger to something more primal and raw fear. Then she saw it, the creeping shadows behind them, alive and hungry. What have we awakened? She whispered, heart racing as dread pooled in the pit of her stomach. For she knew this was just the beginning. The shadows crept closer, twisting and writhing like a living thing. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The air turned electric, charged with a raw energy that prickled at her skin. She turned away from her family, from their explosive horror, to face the encroaching darkness, her heart pounding louder than any storm outside. Run! Her brother cried, clutching his wound, his voice a desperate echo of what they once were. Before it's too late. But what good was running when the real enemy stood behind her? Sarah barely registered his words. The shadows were not merely cast by the flickering light, they were a tangible threat, birthed from the world outside, a dark specter wandering into the sanctity of her home. Stay together, her mother shouted, panic threading through her voice. But it sounded far away, drowned out by the thundering of Sarah's heartbeat and the sinister laughter that seemed to ripple from the shadows. Mom, Dad, we need to. Before she could finish, the first of the shadows surged forward, a dark whirlwind that sliced through the air with a baleful shriek. Sarah dove to the side as the formidable form missed her by inches. Fear coalesced with adrenaline, inciting her to instinctively reach for the knife that had just betrayed her. What the hell is happening? Her father shouted, eyes wide with confusion and dread. The shadows morphed, now taking shapes, faces contorted in anguish and rage. They were old, familiar expressions, distorted in the gloom. These were not just conjured horrors. They were the echoes of past moments, misdeeds, and the family's own buried tragedies clawing their way to the surface. Sarah stumbled backward, her breath quickening. No, this can't be real. I'll wake up. I must be dreaming. Sarah. Her mother's voice broke through the chaos, desperate and sharp. We have to fight together. You don't know what it is. But Sarah did know. She had felt the weight of those buried secrets heavy on her chest. Fight? The bitter taste of betrayal filled her mouth. You think we can fight what you've unleashed? The shadows roared, pulsing with an unholy energy, rattling the windows. A piercing chill swept through the room, sending a shiver down Sarah's spine. She glanced at her brother, whose eyes were wide with fear and defiance, as the pool of blood around him expanded, mingling with the encroaching darkness. Get out of the way, he barked, staggering to his feet, defiance surging in him despite his injury. He charged toward their parents, pushing them back toward the thin barrier between reality and the chaos encroaching upon them. No, wait. Sarah reached for him, but it was too late. In his reckless charge, he defied the shadows, fists swinging as if he could drive them back with sheer will. It wasn't bravery. It was desperation, the kind born of knowing the end was within reach. In that moment, Sarah's resolve crystallized. She couldn't run. She couldn't let the weight of her family's sins drag her down. I won't let them take us, she screamed, grasping for the knife. Perhaps she could wield her pain instead. She pushed through toward the shadows, feeling their icy caress dance around her. But as she advanced, the shadows recoiled, shimmering like a flickering flame. Each step brought her closer to the truth, to the breaking point. Suddenly, a shadow lunged toward Sarah, its icy hands grasping for her throat. She felt the cold close in, squeezing her breath away. But amidst the terror, A spark of something fierce ignited inside her. "Not today," she shouted, swinging her knife wildly. Where it struck, light shimmered for an instant before darkness flared in angry retaliation. And then everything changed. A horrendous roar echoed through the house, shaking the very foundation and blinding her with a flash of light. What was happening? From across the room, she glimpsed her family. Fear, anger, and for the first time unity flashed in their eyes. "What did we awaken?" her brother shouted back, breathless, as the shadows clashed against the raw energy she unknowingly unleashed. Just when it seemed salvation was in reach, the floor trembled beneath them. The sound of cracking wood and crumbling stones rose like a chorus of doom. Together, their mother screamed, "Now!" But could they manage to unite against the darkness they had long let fester in their hearts? An avalanche of shadows surged forward, the waves crashing against them, and Sarah's heart raced. Could their ties of blood be enough to fight this new monster that had risen from their past? As shadows clawed at the edges of their world, they surged as one, a fragile bond made fierce in the face of the unknown. In that instant, Sarah grasped her brother's hand, their bond stronger than the terrors facing them. But just as hope flickered in her chest, the shadows bellowed, "You think you can escape your fate?" Sarah froze. Was it the end, or merely the beginning of a darkness yet to come? What had they truly awoken? A deafening crash echoed through the house, shattering the eerie stillness that had enveloped them. Sarah's heart raced as she clutched her brother's hand tighter, desperation fueling her pulse. The floor beneath them continued to tremble, a violent reminder of the chaos spiraling out of control. Each rumble felt like a warning time was running out. "Focus," her mother shouted, eyes locking onto each family member, searching for strength. "Remember the light. Remember who we are." But even as Sarah nodded, her mind swirled with doubt. Was there strength in their unity, or were they simply prolonging the inevitable? The shadows, now a swirling tapestry of despair, pressed closer, their forms twisting into grotesque silhouettes that taunted her from the corners of her vision. The air thickened with a palpable dread. "We're not going to make it," her brother whispered, voice shaking but defiant. "They're everywhere. Not if we stand together," Sarah shouted back, her voice cracking. She could feel the weight of their fear, a tangible thing that threatened to drown them all. She took a deep breath, channeling her trembling resolve into a fierce light. "We have to remember the good, the love we shared before this nightmare." As if mocking her, the shadows stuttered forward, their ghastly forms stretching and swirling with malevolence. It was then Sarah noticed something, a soft luminescence beginning to pulse in her grasp. The knife. In that instant, a flicker of hope ignited within her. Sarah closed her eyes, envisioning the warmth of family dinners, the laughter echoing in the halls, and the moments when love had conquered darkness. Were those memories enough? Could they push back against the horrors birthed from their own guilt? "Together," she cried, slashing the knife toward the shadows. Light exploded from its blade, a brilliant illumination that momentarily parted the dark, revealing the hidden truths that lurked beneath. Faces of loved ones emerged from the shadows like ghosts, smiling and vibrant. But the moment was fleeting. The shadows recoiled, howling in agony, their grotesque forms reshaping into monstrous representations of their past failures. "No, we're stronger than this," Sarah screamed, determination lifting her. She turned to her family, her eyes bright with conviction. "We have to fight. We can't let these shadows consume us." Fear flickered in her brother's eyes, but he nodded, the fire of rebellion sparking within him. "Yeah, we're not going to let them win." As they tightened their circle, the shadows surged forward once more, dark tendrils racing to snatch away the light they had uncovered. Each brush of darkness bristled against Sarah's skin, chilling her to the bone, but she pressed onward. The knife glimmered in her hand, a beacon of hope amidst the growing chaos. "Hold on, together," their father shouted, pushing against the shadows that clawed at his family. "We're all we've got." The words struck a chord. Sarah and her brother surged forward, pulling their parents along. Each flick of their blades sent waves of light cascading through the darkness, illuminating the memories they once shared, a bond strong enough to fracture the shadows. The sound of their unity echoed through the house, a defiant anthem rising against despair. And as the memories clashed against the darkness, the shadows shrieked, their wails reverberating in a cacophony of sorrow. But just as they seemed to gain ground, a chilling voice slithered from the depths of the shadows, deep and mocking. "You think this will save you? You can't escape your true selves." Sarah's breath hitched. The shadows began to coalesce, growing closer, more sentient. What did that voice mean? What truths lay hidden behind their shadows? Desperation clawed at her mind. Were they fighting their past, or was it something far more sinister? The floor trembled again, and she realized something vital: they needed to confront whatever darkness lurked not just in their home, but in their hearts. "Whatever you are, we will face you," Sarah yelled, raising the knife as if it were a sword. "We won't let you win." But even as she declared her resolve, the shadows surged heavily forward, swallowing the light whole. In the depths of the dark, what monsters awaited them? Would they have the strength to confront the truth together, or would the shadows consume them before they could find release? As the shadows closed in, an overwhelming silence fell, and Sarah's heart raced with a terrifying realization: what if fighting was the only way to reveal who they truly were inside? What was lurking within them all? What awaited them in that unimaginable darkness? The shadows lunged, an inky mass of fear and despair. Sarah's pulse quickened, each thrum echoing the dread swarming around them. The whispering voice crawled through the darkness, seeping into her mind. If they wouldn't confront the truth, this darkness wouldn't just consume them, it would become them. "Sarah." Her mother's voice shattered through the growing chaos, filled with panic. "We need to remember who we are." But what was left of them? The laughter, the joy, faded like a distant memory, swallowed by sorrow. Sarah felt the shadows inching closer, their cold fingers grazing her arm, chilling her resolve. She could feel the weight of every mistake they had ever made, every unspoken word, pressing down like a physical burden. "You can't run from yourselves." The voice taunted again, deeper now, reverberating inside her head. The shadows twisted into forms resembling family members, slumped under the weight of their shared burdens. "Stop it," Sarah screamed, swinging the knife again. But each strike seemed to only deepen the shadows' claws around them. "We are not defined by our failures." Her brother's determination sparked again. "Fight back. Fight together." He clutched Sarah's other hand, squeezing tightly, pulling her back to the light of their shared memories. His belief fed her strength. "Together," Sarah echoed, the word igniting a flicker within her. Memories of their family's voices rose against the darkness, their smiles, the warmth of body heat against winter chill, the promises of brighter days. They had to believe in those moments, even if the shadows mocked them. "Let us show them what love is," she yelled over the howls of encroaching despair. With a fierce determination, they drew strength from one another, the knife transforming into a conduit feeding off their united will. Light burst forth again, stronger than before, illuminating the grotesque forms circling them like a pack of wolves. "Stop hiding behind our past," their father roared. "Face us." The shadows writhed, and Sarah could feel a resistance rising from within her, tethering to a long-buried hope. What they encountered might not be what they expected. The invading specter of their past didn't just wear familiar faces. It was layered with their pain. "I am more than my mistakes," her brother shouted, his voice piercing through the haze. "We all are." As they embraced the truth together, the shadows began to flicker. The hideous forms wavered like reflections in a broken mirror, unsure and frightened. The light they wielded surged like a tide, driving the darkness back, revealing fragments of the true selves hidden behind failures. But in this moment of unity, a chilling realization crystallized. Just as they felt victory within reach, the shadows grew desperate and volatile. Their real form emerged, a swirling void of chaos and despair, seething as if threatened by the light. "Liberate yourselves," a distant voice echoed, drawing them deeper into the maelstrom. For it is not us you must fear, it is what lies within you all. The shadows shivered, swirling with corrupted memories and deep wounds. Sarah's heart ached as the truth settled like a heavy cloud. What if the darkest parts of their memories formed a cycle? What if they had to face more than just collective guilt? Find your truth, her mother urged, her voice a lifeline amidst turmoil. Just then, the walls of their home groaned, vibrating with the force of the shadow's fury. The air was thick, an electric current of fear and power. Sarah could barely breathe. She could see their fear reflected in her family's faces. They all had to confront their inner demons. Stand against it, she cried. We can't break. Not now. We can't let them take our home, or each other. But a new darkness flickered in her heart, one she had not yet acknowledged. What truths would emerge when the light pierced through? Would they shatter or rise together? And as the shadows lunged forward, an oppressive silence surrounded them, hinting at the ultimate confrontation that awaited. Would they unleash the hidden power of their love or succumb to the haunting echoes of their past? The air thickened with dread as they prepared to plunge into the heart of darkness. In that suffocating moment, the question loomed above them. Could they reconcile their shadows and emerge whole? Or would they fracture before the storm? The shadows swirled with an ominous hunger, an ethereal mist that glided dangerously close, filling the room with a chilling, numbing sensation. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. The weight of her family's history pressed down like a heavy blanket, thick with regrets and unspoken pains, suffocating yet oddly familiar. Stand firm, she shouted, her voice slicing through the chaos. This isn't just my fight. It's all of ours. It felt like fire coursing through her veins, igniting a spark in her family that had been buried far too long. Her brother, still nursing his injury, shifted beside her, determination flashing in his eyes. We can do this, Sarah. Love conquers all, right? We've been through worse. Sarah locked eyes with her mother. The expressed sorrow, once painted with anger, now softened into something resembling fear. We refuse to be controlled by our past, she cried, stepping forward, clasping the knife tightly still. A weapon but also a symbol of resolve and change. You think you can rise above us? One of the shadows hissed, the voice twisting grotesquely through the air. You're nothing without us. Remember who you are. Sarah clenched her jaw, ready to deny the darkness their power. No, you don't define me. She could feel her family draw closer, encircling her like a shield against the encroaching nightmare. As they held hands, Sarah, her brother, her parents, they became an unwavering force, connected not by blood but by shared strength. We're not alone, she yelled again, passion sparking a fierce resolve. We've had our struggles, but that doesn't make us broken. That makes us stronger. In unity there is power, her father bellowed, stepping into the light they created together. The shadows writhed in retaliation. You will pay for your defiance, they spat, surging forward as a dark wave. Not today, Sarah shouted, summoning all her bottled rage, pain, and hope. She raised the knife high, the blade shimmering with a light fueled by their collective love. In that critical moment, the light intensified, breaking through the darkness like a sun piercing heavy clouds. The shadows screamed as they recoiled, twisting away from the brilliance enveloping the family. Now, remember the love, her mother urged, her voice steadying as their fears began to resonate with hope. Sarah focused on the memories that flooded her mind. The laughter shared over holiday meals, summer nights spent under stars, whispers of forgiveness, and promises made. Each spark filled her heart, invigorating the light until it became a raging fire, fierce and unyielding. The shadows faltered, trembling in their malevolence as if shaken by the very essence of love they had once abandoned. You cannot stand against us forever. We don't have to fight alone, Sarah called, her confidence shattering the remaining darkness surrounding them. This ends now. With one swift motion, she slashed the knife through the air, and the force of their rippling love surged outward, pushing against the shadows. The knife radiated warmth and light, spiraling into a blinding ball of energy that engulfed the room, illuminating every corner with its fierce glow. The shadows screamed, their forms dissipating like fog in the face of daylight. Cracks split the air as echoes of their shared confrontation transformed. Each tremor carried whispers of guilt and betrayal, but they didn't shield them anymore. Instead, they morphed into reflections of strength born from the past and the promise of rebirth. And just like that, the shadows began to dissolve, retreating into the ether from whence they came, abandoning their grasp on Sarah's home and heart as the last remnant faded. Silence enveloped them, thick and still. The remnants of fear lingered, but the atmosphere had shifted. It was lighter, more genuine. What happened? Her brother gasped, taking deep breaths, eyes wide. We stood together, Sarah whispered, feeling the weight of transformation settle in. And we didn't let them win. Tears brimmed in her mother's eyes, each drop a testament to reconciliation. I'm so proud of you, she said, the warmth in her voice palpable. A rare hug exchanged among the fog of old pain. Sarah's heart lifted at the acknowledgement, warmth blossoming within her. Maybe it's time to face everything we've hidden, she suggested quietly, glancing at each family member. Together. Her father nodded, resolve in his expression, now unshackled from the chains built on years of hurt. We'll do it as a family, even the hard stuff. And as dawn began to rise, spilling hues of orange and gold through the battered windows, they stepped outside, united, ready to embrace whatever awaited them beyond those walls. The world was filled with uncertainties, but together, they would find a way to mend the fractures, peace through the dark, and embrace the light. Sarah inhaled deeply, relief flooding through her. This was a new beginning. Before you leave this amazing journey, there is something crucial to discuss. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss any more exclusive stories that are coming up. This is the moment to show your support for the channel. Smash the like button now to help keep us alive and thriving in the algorithm. And don't hold back, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this emotional conclusion. I want to hear everything you think. And one last thing. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see the truth behind Sarah's story. Your support makes all the difference.